And what's important to know is that these third platform technologies are actually forcing companies today to change the way that they look at IT within their organization. So, long time ago, we used to always talk about systems. Now we focus more on solutions and services. And we used to talk about getting information. That was very important. Now it's all about driving innovation. And it's also all more about increasing business agility. And another important thing to note is that without these third platform technologies, you won't be able to drive the Internet of Things. All of these third platform technologies are enablers to support and drive IoT in organizations today. But before I go any further, what exactly is the Internet of Things? How do we actually define it? Maybe I'll try this out, right? I try this out everywhere. So can you raise your hand if you can comfortably talk about it, explain the Internet of Things to one of your colleagues or your customers or your business partners? Anyone? Okay, that's expected, right? I asked this question even to a room full of CIOs in many, many events, and always only a few hands come up. It's a very complicated concept. So let me try to explain IDC's way of defining it. And usually when we talk about IoT, there are three buzzwords that you'll hear. And the first one will be machine to machine, or M2M. And here we're talking about devices that capture events and transmits those events over a network to an application that translates it into meaningful information. So, sounds very complicated, right? What does it mean? I'll give you a simple example, and since I like Vietnamese coffee, I'll use coffee as an example. So let's say we have a company in Hanoi, and they want to export coffee beans from Vietnam to the US. And of course, the most important thing is they want to make sure that the coffee arrives in the freshest possible condition, as fresh as possible. So what they do is, you have those container ships that transport all these coffee beans. So what they do is they stick a module or modules inside of those containers, and these modules will capture events. And these events could be things like the temperature level, or the humidity level, or the carbon dioxide level. And after it captures the event, it will transmit it over a network to an application that someone in a control room can actually see. So let's say I'm sitting in the control room on board one of those ships, and I get the information coming through that says, it's getting too warm, so I need to open a vent. So I can send I can send one of my colleagues, okay, I can say, hey, Tan is one of my colleagues from IDC, go to container 35,650 and open a vent. Now that's better than having Tan stationed in the container 24 hours a day. But it's still not optimal. We still need to go beyond that. So that's where we get to the Internet of Things. And here it's defined as a network of uniquely identifiable things that communicate without human interaction, that's the keyword, using connectivity. So think again about the coffee beans on the container ship. Imagine if I had a button that I could just press whenever I saw that it's getting too warm. So it's getting too warm, okay, here's a button. Then I don't need Tan anymore. I can tell him he's fired. But what would be even better, right, is if I could build a system that would automatically know when it's getting too warm in the container and open up a vent on its own without me needing to do anything. Or it would know when it's getting too humid and it would activate the dehumidifying function to remove the moisture from the air. So when that happens, what it's doing is it's removing the inefficient components of the process, which is us humans, which is a bit sad, I know, but that's where we're headed. And then finally, we'll move into the Internet of Everything. And this is a term that you might have heard or you might not have heard, and this was coined by Cisco. I think they're trying to market themselves as a differentiator. And here what we're talking about is bringing together the people, processes, data, and things to make network connections more relevant by turning information into actions. So let's see what we're talking about here. Think again about the coffee beans that I've been talking about. Now what we're talking about is connecting everything across the supply chain. So from the farms where the coffee beans are grown, to the local port where they are exported out to the port in the US, to their distributors, to their retailers. So for example, if the ship is about to arrive in the port, the distributors will automatically know that they need to pick it up. Their trucks will be automatically sent to pick up the coffee beans and deliver it to the retailers. Linking together all of these people, processes, and things across the ecosystem. Of course, it's only 2015. That's a very, very long way away. And most of what we do today is M2M. But the market is going to evolve towards that eventually. And when I talk about IoT, it's very important to remember that there is an ecosystem already around IoT. And this is the typical machine-to-machine or M2M ecosystem that you would have seen. If you have devices or modules connecting through platforms to applications. But now what we have is so much data being transmitted back and forth. We have so many more modules and devices transmitting data back and forth. So it's very important to have analytics to kind of like make sense of the data. And analytics are what will drive IoT forward, or what makes data intelligent and creates opportunities for you. And of course, when you have more data, everything also needs to be secured more carefully. And now that it's getting so complex, you need professional services to kind of wrap everything together to make sure everything is delivered seamlessly. And when all of this is working very well, then you can start to deliver innovative solutions. So you can deliver solutions for consumers, for government, as well as for the enterprise. And I'll cover these in more detail. I know it's a bit small. I'll cover these in more detail later on. So let me give you some numbers as well. This is IDC's forecast for the Internet of Things, and this is specifically on Asia Pacific. So what we see in 2020 will be that there will be 8.6 billion connected things in Asia Pacific, Asia Pacific excluding Japan, in 2020. And this is in a single year alone, only in 2020. And this will represent a 583 billion US dollar market opportunity. So obviously, big numbers, that means big opportunities as well. Now let's break it down. Let's break down that revenue opportunity, the 583 billion. Let's break it down by the ecosystem that I talked about earlier. So when I break it down like that, as you can see, most of the revenue is going towards the applications component. So that's where most of the early opportunities lie. Developing apps to link all of the different devices and modules and solutions together. So of course, that's opportunity, but don't forget that there are big dollar values as well in all of the other areas. And FPT, I think, will be very well positioned to capitalize across this ecosystem. Alright, so enough of the boring stuff. Now let's get to what we see coming up on the horizon. And I'm sure you would have heard a lot of interesting and exciting use cases coming out of IoT. And people are going to be coming to you and talking about smart cities where everything is connected from your toilet bowl all the way to the garbage disposal. Or Google talking about smart, self-driving cars, for example. But that's all very well and good. It's going to happen. But let's look at what's realistic today. That's what I'm going to focus on. Things that are make business sense today, and you can actually start to leverage these already in your business. So the first one will be on video surveillance. Right, video surveillance. Everyone's heard of it. It's been there for a long time. Big deal. But one of the biggest issues in Southeast Asia has been traffic jams. And until today, we still don't see any of our governments properly leveraging video surveillance to do traffic management. And aside from that, you can also use it to do more crime prevention, increase security, crime prevention, crime solving, catch the bad guys. Of course, emergency response as well. When you have accidents, when you have incidents on the road, video surveillance will be there to help you to capture it. And the data is real time, and you can actually leverage that very well. That's one. What about smart buildings? This is another big opportunity. And you see this more and more, because especially with greenfield or new developments, because basically they save money, and everyone likes to save money, right? And you can see you can reduce energy costs through smart lighting, and you can do predictive maintenance on your equipment to prevent it from getting too damaged before you fix it. You can also use it to enhance security, minimize data loss or other sort of risks. And yeah, you will see this more and more, not just with new developments now moving forward, because now you can actually start to do it with brownfield or existing infrastructure and buildings as well. You can retrofit your existing infrastructure with the latest point solutions already. So this is another area where we expect to see huge growth. And while I'm on smart buildings, I don't have a slide, but I was talking to Mr. Fung earlier, and he was telling me about some of your initiatives in the smart home. And I think that's a fantastic area to go into. And we already see telcos in many countries starting to drive this, because they provide the connectivity and they need to diversify their revenue stream. So here's an opportunity to go into, and there's no reason why FPT can't move into that area as well, through smart home robotics, controlling systems around your home. That's another opportunity. Now I'm going to talk a bit about digital signage, and this, I have maybe too many slides on this, but it's an interesting one, and there are some good business cases on it that I think you will find quite exciting. So first is a virtual store. So this is a virtual supermarket by Tesco in Gatwick Airport in London. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to Gatwick Airport, but it's a really terrible airport, even though it's one of the worst airports in the Western Hemisphere. But the fact is, they've got this type of advanced solution already. So what you have is a digital screen, and you can go and buy your groceries when you come back, when you land, and you can have them delivered to your home by the time you get there. It's lower cost than a physical store, obviously. You can put it in high traffic areas, increases customer loyalty, and it actually drives traffic to the display, and it builds new customers for you. So it's a good business case as well, and very easy to deploy. And of course, what about customer self-service? This is an example from Telstra, the Telstra flagship store in Sydney. And they created these panels which allow people to go and do self-service, to go and like compare specs of devices or phones, and basically find information on their own. So they save money by reducing the number of people walking around the store to help people out. You don't always have to go and find someone. You don't always have to linger in the store, just waiting to talk to a store assistant. That's one of the great business cases as well. But not always about money, right? Sometimes it's about branding and marketing. And this is a good example of how you can use viral marketing campaigns, use digital media signage to do viral marketing campaigns. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this. This is actually quite old. This is a Pepsi Max ad that was launched actually a couple of years ago already. And it's a very good example. What they did was, they used this, they created this, they set up this bus shelter or bus stop in London. And the view from here is you're actually sitting inside the bus stop. And they said they use a combination of augmented reality, digital media signage, and motion sensors to actually set up this bus so that you think you're seeing through this screen and you think you're looking through outside, but actually they have set it up so that they are putting on displays on whatever they want. So you can see in this example, you have UFOs coming. In other examples, you have lions attacking or whatever. So this went viral and it was a very cool video, and I encourage you to go YouTube and watch it. Last one on digital signage, sorry. Interactive shop windows. So this was a Benetton store in Italy, Milan. And they set up their windows, their store windows, to actually show displays. And they use data to analyze what kind of footfall they were getting outside the store. And based on the footfall they were getting, they would customize the digital displays that they would show. And this actually proved to help them to increase foot traffic into their stores and actually engage customer interaction as well. So it's very cool to see. Enough about digital signage, let's talk about asset tracking. And yeah, this is what's interesting is that just now with the numbers that I showed you, the IDC forecast on the Internet of Things, what's interesting is we are also tracking the number of livestock that will be connected. So how many cows, how many sheep are going to be tagged with RFID tags. But of course, you live in Hanoi, so you're probably thinking, so what, I don't have a cow. But it's not all about cows. Think of it can be used to tag any sort of product where you want to know the point of origin. So for example, Diageo, this is a whiskey company, and they wanted to tag their whiskey bottles because they were having a lot of issues with counterfeiting. And by tagging, they would ensure that the retailers, they could scan it, and they could prove to the customer that the whiskey was, is an original and authentic version. And it's not just, maybe we can go back to cows as well. Like if you're a Wagyu beef middleman, you're an exporter of Wagyu beef. That's very expensive, right? Wouldn't you feel more comfortable if you know where the point of origin is through a tag? That's the kind of opportunities that you have with asset tracking. Okay, so I'm going to go into an area where this is quite personal to me because I'm a devices analyst, and I'm going to talk about wearables, consumer wearables in the enterprise. And sure, some of you probably thinking consumer wearables in the enterprise, that's crazy, right? But you should watch the trends because this is an area which is already starting to explode, and it's a big opportunity for everyone across many different verticals. So first of which it could be used for is employee monitoring. Now I'm sure some of you are looking at this and saying, oh my God, that's so ugly, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing this type of band on my wrist, right? And you're right, but the fact is, all this is used for is for lone worker protection. It doesn't have to be very fancy. It just needs to work. So you can companies can give this to workers who are always in remote areas or dangerous areas, and if they get into trouble, they can activate a pinger, and then the company can send someone to help them out. Or it can be used for health and safety as well. Think about in Western Australia, where there was a mining boom over the past decade. And when there's a mining boom, there's a lot of investment coming into Western Australia, and they were